I think the big problem, and I think what really it is that we're not realizing how racist we are when it comes to hot dogs and not calling them sandwiches. We're
Yeah,
just
we're being
keeping that
unfair.
separate. Being unfair, kind of
I
like
mean,
this.
you're not discriminating against types of bread, so arguably you are anti-racist.
Well, either way, that was my best way to transition to the next topic.
That was pretty smooth. Like, considering it was on the fly, that was okay.
I was like, how the hell am I going to get us out of the rings of power? I don't know.
I have not seen this, so I don't have much to say on the topic. But if anybody who has seen it does, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah, I saw it as well. Drinker, why don't you go first then?
So, I was actually quite surprised by it. It's because I hadn't seen the What is a Woman documentary, but I had seen Lady Ballers, and I wasn't particularly impressed by that. I thought it was a very misfiring attempt at comedy. This is more in the sort of mockumentary style. It's kind of like Borat, but like a conservative version of that.
Yeah.
Matt Walsh is on an anti-racist journey to learn more about how we can be less racist. And so that's your premise. He meets various figures in the sort of anti-racist grift, for lack of a better word. It's quite interesting because every time he interviews with one of them, he puts the price tag up for like getting to speak to them, and it's like in some cases it's like $40,000-$50,000 just to do an interview with them. So yeah, it's a prime example, I think, of give your enemy just enough rope to hang themselves with. You know, most of the time he doesn't really try and argue with them in any way. He just asks a few questions and lets them, you know, go into all their contradictions, all their ridiculous nonsense, and essentially make them look like fools. And so it's quite an interesting perspective, because I think in a lot of cases it kind of exposes just how many people profit from this cottage industry of claiming that you're anti-racist in order to charge extortionate fees to speak in front of people and just vomit up some incomprehensible word salad that they then clap for because that's what they're trying to do. So yeah, it was quite an interesting documentary, I suppose, overall. And I think I'll give props to Matt Walsh on this one. He's surprisingly funny in a deadpan sort of way, because to do this, he's undercover and he has to kind of improvise quite quickly and think on his feet when he's dealing with people who don't know who he is. And I think he generally does a fairly good job at it. Like I say, he's very deadpan, very dry, and just kind of allows people to almost make fools of themselves. So yeah, quite interesting stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was right in line with What is a Woman, if anyone has seen that. If you liked that, you'll definitely like this too. But yeah, it really exposes the ridiculousness of DEI and the entire monetary culture of it at this point. Like Drinker said, every time he talks to someone, he'll put up the dollar signs of how much it costs for him to even speak to these people. And it's always these like, it's the stuff you'll read in any article, and they're basically just regurgitating the same shit to you. And Platoon, it reminded me of a post you said you tweeted out recently about how to debate someone or how to win an argument, and it's really just to ask super pointed questions. And that's exactly what he does. He doesn't debate anyone really. He just sticks a microphone in their face and lets them talk, and it exposes the ridiculousness of it all. That's exactly what he did in What is a Woman, and it's the exact same vein here. And the What is a Woman comedy I really didn't think was very funny, just because I don't know, it's Matt Walsh isn't a comedian by any stretch of the imagination, but this is I don't know, maybe it was the subject matter, but it's genuinely pretty funny in a couple moments. And it's, it's a documentary / mockumentary. A lot of the stuff is really happening, but some of it's scripted just to give you transitions because there's a narrative. But those moments are actually worthwhile, and I thought they were pretty funny.
Just to give it an example, like there's one bit near the beginning where he's talking to like an anti-racism professor who I'm sure is self-appointed, but she's explaining to him that like if you have little girls, say, who are into Disney, then you should encourage them to gravitate towards the diverse Disney princesses. And he's like, well, like Moana, for example, She's like, yeah, that's a perfect example. And he says, well, yeah, but we can't have her wearing, say, Moana outfits at Halloween or for parties and stuff, because that would be cultural appropriation. And she says, yeah, that's exactly right. So we couldn't have that. And so his conclusion is like, so essentially they have to support diverse Disney princes, but also condemn them by not like actually wearing any of their clothes or trying to look like them. And that's it. Like, that's the inherent contradiction of all of this. And I think, you know, it perfectly shines a light on just how these people have to live in a world of constant doublethink in order to marry up all these ridiculous concepts in their heads. And there's just so much of it throughout the documentary. And I think what's interesting is he goes through all the different levels, for like from the people working in bookstores who are just like essentially like the mindless seals who just clap and regurgitate whatever they've been told, like without any critical thinking, all the way up to academics who are like shaping the minds of the next generation, and basically filling them with this stuff, to the best-selling authors who are, you know, making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just on this absolute grift. And it's kind of hilarious when he gets, is it Robin DiAngelo?
Oh yeah.
He gets her to pay reparations to one of his like technicians who's black, just because he does it, and it's like, what?
He's not waiting for the system to take care of it. He's starting to take care of it now.
Because the moment where it's like, where she's asked to put money into her own pocket, even though she's been paid $15,000 just to do this sit-down interview for like 20 minutes. Yeah, you can see how hesitant she is, and it's like, well, reparations doesn't mean actually giving people money. It means like systemic improvements to the, you know, the word salad. And he's like, yeah, but like we can do this now to help them. And like there's this really long pause where he just stares at her, and eventually she's like, okay, I guess I can get my money.
It has actually been quite a even though it's only been in theaters 2 days, it's already been a pretty controversial movie. We have actually a super chat that transitions pretty well into it. So
JV for $4.99. Will the films you be talking about include Am I a Racist? I know Jeremy Johns upset some people with its review. Yeah, just by the mere fact that it was a review. Hey, look at that. Nice, DarkHour.
It's almost like I'm getting good at this.
Fucking Chris Stockman is better. Yeah, sure. I'd love to see Chris Stockman try and review this. I'd love it.
Here's the thing. I think if I was going to make a fake Twitter account to try and make this for the show, I think that's what I would do. Exactly. Eric hashtag renew the acolyte with a LGBT flag, Karn rules with a Z, and I can't quite read what the actual image says, but that just looks like something that would make sense for this.
Well, it is the type, isn't it? It's always flags in the bio, pronouns in the bio. Usually they're big fans of the acolyte, even though they can't really explain why it is. The frustrating thing with people like this, and I really want to sort of try and drive it home to them, is that you should if you care about these causes as much as you say you do, you should be supporting exactly this kind of documentary, because what it's exposing isn't so much the problem with the idea. You can have a debate about what anti-racism is, what it entails, what you actually have to do to embody it, if it's a concept you can embody to begin with, all of that stuff, which is the fairly academic thing. But if you care about not being a racist, and there's a lot of people who are making a huge amount of money bullshitting in favor of your cause, you should want to weed those people out of your movement more than any conservative does. Those people are doing Matt Walsh a favor by existing. They're harming you. So if Matt Walsh is doing your job for you by going and exposing the obvious nonsense of the grift of Robin DiAngelo, maybe don't call him a racist for doing that. Maybe say, well, that's good, but at least we don't have to do it. And maybe if you want to get up ahead of the game, go and do that kind of journalism yourself, because this is the cause you claim to care about. Same thing with trans people and what is a woman. It's the same thing. What if you actually care about issues that affect real trans people day to day? What you really want is to get rid of the people who are just trying to dollarize a medical condition and abuse children and turn everybody against your community. This is all stuff that once upon a time you'd like to think people could agree on. Grifters are bad, get rid of them. But apparently pointing out a grift is a grift, and that makes you racist.
Well, I think, the problem is labeling someone a racist becomes this silver bullet that you can just deploy in any situation, and it essentially makes you immune to criticism. If you can just say, well, I'm fighting against racism, effectively that means nobody can criticize you for doing anything, because you can always say, well, what I'm doing is in the service of the greater good. And if you try and criticize me, if you try and undermine the great work that I'm doing for humanity, you are in fact the racist. That's how they've operated for so long. That's how they've been able to operate with impunity. And I think that's why I kind of respect Jeremy Jahns for making his review of this, because he opened by saying, like, I was reluctant to even talk about this movie because I know it's like a hot topic subject. And I think the fact that I was reluctant to talk about it is why it needs to be talked about. And I thought, I respect the shit out of you for saying that.
Yeah.
And for actually making the review, because I think it's kind of hurt him in terms of his audience and his viewership. I think he's actually lost subscribers because of doing this. But he was obviously willing to take that hit, I suppose.
Historically, he's been one of the most centrist, just no bullshit reviewers there's been.
I don't think anyone's ever accused him of being like conservative or right wing or anything like that, or left wing. Really, he just seems like a completely apolitical guy who just talks about movies.
Yeah, he just
fault him.
Right down the middle all the time with his reviews. He barely uses any of the hot button words. If he can avoid it, sometimes you just can't because it's in the movie. But he's always. I followed him for a long time. He's never really taken a side either way. So it's insane how he does this once, and it just now he's labeled as one of us.
It won't hurt him in the long term, I bet.
No.
Because I don't watch a lot of the YouTubers that were like grandfathered in, and I thought of him as one, and now I'm like, oh, maybe I'll subscribe to him now.
He's easy enough to listen to. Like his videos are like a similar length to Chris Stuckman, and they're kind of surface level like Chris is, but like he actually puts a bit of like, he actually has a personality and he puts a bit of entertainment into it. Whereas like Chris, you get nothing out of him. So like, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Jeremy's like a far superior reviewer. It's just you're not going to get deep analysis from him.
He also tends to do his reviews. He gets a lot of screeners and early showings. So a lot of his reviews come out before the movie even comes out. So he has to keep it very surface level because he doesn't want to go into spoiler territory.
I think so. Like
release.
I guess the difference is like you don't sort of get retrospectives from him very often, or video essays or whatever, where he maybe can go back over older movies or talk about this aspect of filmmaking or this aspect of writing, whatnot. He just kind of
moves on to the next one, and
pretty much, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like it's what he obviously likes to do, but yeah, I guess you miss out on a certain level of depth of analysis sometimes.
Do I have any more?
Why is there so many debates about what tacos are in chat, by the way?
Because some people believe that hot dogs are tacos because of the shape of the bun.
What?
That's it's an American
Shut down the
taco.
chat.
Hey, I'll throw one even out. I'm going to throw one out that it's going to completely. What is a gyro? Is that a Mediterranean taco? There you go, everybody. Have your way.
Up northeast United States, we call them gyros.
Yes, which is incorrect. And
I know it
people
is.
hate
I learned that from Wisconsin people.
I don't know how you. Yeah, I don't know how you
Okay.
pronounce it. Is it gyro or gyro?
It's gyro.
Gyro.
Yeah.
Gyro.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
I've
you're
had
right.
them plenty of times, and they're very tasty.
I mean,
but never know how to
Drinker would
order
probably
them.
call it a kebab.
Yeah, it's a kebab.
Doner kebab. Yeah. So.
Yeah,
Which
but
took
those
me forever
versions
to
are-
understand what. I followed your videos for so long and had no idea what the hell I thought you were talking about like a skewered piece of meat for so long.
Yeah, that people often get those confused. Like, well, I suppose that's what they are generally, but like over here in the UK, yeah, it's something different. And it's basically the sort of thing you only eat at like 2 a.m. when you've staggered out of a nightclub or something, and you just need something to eat.